Hello and hi, welcome to Yedidia Shofet.net and welcome to HALACHA of the week number 27. Today's question, which was addressed to the Chief Rabbi, Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, is a very interesting question. Every Shabbat, you want to have the best bread on the table. You want to have a beautiful atmosphere. Sometimes you want to go on a trip and you want to be able to treat everyone out. Or sometimes you want to go on a trip and you don't want to wash or say hamotzi because of either time constraints or it's just not easy to find water in order to wash your hands. So the question that arises here is that what constitutes bread that invalidates it as to being used for hamotzi, such as by the meal for Shabbat, or if someone wants to actually say netilat yadayim, which is the washing of the hands before the meal or before this bread. What invalidates a bread, or what constitutes the bread as a mizonot bread, as a bread that as if that you're eating a cookie, as if that you're eating a donut, that you would say mizonot? The same thing would work for the bread, as if you're eating a piece of cake. What type of bread is this? So the Shulchan Aruch, he goes through a whole detailed explanation of this, and he comes out with the bottom line. Any bread, any challah that you're going to bring to the table, and at this table, when you take a bite out of it, you'll see the bread, it has a different taste. It doesn't taste like your usual flour, water, yeast, and salt, but rather there's a certain sweetness to it. Or besides that sweetness, there's an eggy texture, eggy taste to it. Or sometimes there's a lot of spices that people put, dry fruits, or nuts, chocolate chips, raisins. And by this, what happens to the bread is that the bread doesn't have its original taste. Rather, the whole taste of the bread is different. So bread like this is actually considered as mizonot bread. And according to the Shulchan Aruch, according to the Sephardim, we would not say hamotzi on this bread. Rather, we would say mizonot. So the question is, what about if one wants to have French toast? Now, what's French toast? French toast is also, it's going to be very sweet, cinnamon and sugar. It's fried bread with cinnamon and sugar and eggs. And what is the blessing on some type of a bread like that? Do you say mizonot? And you should say, or hamotzi. So surprisingly, we say hamotzi. But it's sweet, it's full of sugar, full of cinnamon. So the difference is that at the first bread that we were talking about at the beginning of this little video, is that the dough itself contains sweeteners. The dough itself either contains honey, contains eggs, fruits, chocolate, whatever it is. But over here, by the French toast, it was already, when the bread was made, it already had the status of hamotzi. And once it had that status of hamotzi, what can you say about this bread? That all you do is you're adding sweeteners to it afterwards. And by adding sweeteners to it afterwards, it's just condiments, even though that you fried it, even though that you added things to it, but it originally had its status of bread, and it continues to have its status of bread, and you will not be able to take it away, that status of bread. So if you go on an airline, and you see mizonot breads, if that bread is a bread that, if it says mizonot on it, if it was made with fruit juice instead of regular water, or it was made with extra sugar or extra eggs, then that bread, it is a mizonot bread. You don't need to go wash, you don't need to say Birkat HaMazon, and you do not need to say hamotzi, rather you say mizonot. And the same applies with those chalot that you would buy from the store for Shabbat, that contain those chocolate chips, as well as the fruit. The fruit, I'm talking about in the dough. Now, the difference is, what about a calzone? A calzone is where, if you see the bread, or a sambusak, is where inside they put cheese, they put meats, they put all different types of fruits and vegetables, whatever it is, and they make a sandwich out of it, and then they bake it. So over here, there's a difference. Over here, the bread itself, the dough is untouched. There's a filling, but the dough itself, nothing was actually put into the dough. There was nothing that was blended into the dough that gives the dough a neutralizing effect to not have the same status as challah, to not have the same status as bread. Rather, it keeps its status of bread, even though it's stuffed with cheese and spinach and and marinara sauce and feta cheese and olives. You have all this stuff in there. But the fact is the dough is still pure. And the fact that the dough is still pure, you say hamotzi. But once again, on French toast, you would say hamotzi as well. But if the dough, such as chocolate chip challah, chocolate chip bagels, and there's cinnamon bagels, also depending on how cinnamony it is, then those items will be mizonot. I want to wish you a beautiful day, and I'll see you tomorrow for Jewish Wisdom Week number 27.